Welcome in everyone, HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I guess it's a happy Tuesday. You're rolling along if you're the Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball program right now. If things were too slow and too quiet after Big Z came off the board 8 days ago, first commitment under the Cal era at Arkansas, then we heard about Kenny Payne as the new associate head coach. Was kind of slow, even going through the weekend. You're seeing a lot of names jump off the board from portal and other things that were going on for other programs. And then on Monday, you got a quick visit from Carter Knox, came into Fayetteville, arrived in the afternoon, early evening around 6 o'clock. We saw that McDonald's All-American composite national number 22 five-star off the board, commits to Arkansas. Now you've got two players on the roster, and there is more movement as we move into Tuesday now. We got several things to talk about. Some things I talked about in yesterday's show when I came on at 7 a.m. But once again, welcome to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I'm more interested in the subscribe button for now. We bring a lot of content, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, and other Razorback sports. But certainly right now, basketball is heating up. So the big news right now, and the main reason I'm jumping on here, I've got several things to go over. But the big news: Boogie Fland, Johnell Boogie Fland, a 6'2" guard in that 2024 class, had signed with Kentucky in the early period, got a release from his national letter of intent. He is planning a visit to Arkansas beginning on Wednesday. So tomorrow, sometime in the evening, supposed to arrive, according to reports by Joe Tipton. I had spoken, a lot of my sources are both not only on the college level, but NBA level. And the NBA folks are always scouting these five stars and high level guys. We know the Jordan Brand Classic was played just over the weekend on Sunday night. And so one of my sources on the NBA level was kind of feeling out about some of these guys, what their plans were that were not committed because they can't be eligible for the next draft, but they're doing their homework now. And one of my sources said, yeah, I mean, he had talked to someone directly that Flan was likely to visit Arkansas. I asked for a time frame on that, and this was a conversation that was had on Monday between this source and the other party. And didn't have a time or a date firmed up, but they thought it was likely to be soon because players are going to start making these decisions now that the All-Star games are completed and you're looking at moving. I talked about this yesterday. The moving onto campus is maybe 5 weeks away. The Memorial Day weekend is really where that stuff typically starts to happen. And so a lot of these players have got to get it figured out. And so the idea was he was likely to visit Arkansas. Now we've been able to see, based on reporting, that that's actually going to be in play. I did tweet about it earlier today, before all this stuff actually kind of broke, that I was hearing that a visit was imminent. Didn't know exactly when. Now we do. I've posted a lot of this over on hogville.net. I've posted some of this information already, so it's sitting over there. But Boogie Fland, out of New York, Archbishop Stepinac High School, this is one of the more skilled guards you'll find out there. He's a playmaker, not only for himself, but as a facilitator. I would compare him a lot to some of the skill set that he has with using his quickness, quick twitch ability, and then some of his just refined finishing shots and ability to a Kyrie Irving. I'm not saying he's that good, but there's some of that feel in his game. And we all know Kyrie Irving is a future Naismith Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it from the guard spot. But when you talk about undersized guards that can play big because of the craft and all the things they bring to the table, Irving's one of those fearless slashers because of his skill set and a guy that can just get it anywhere in a half court. And Boogie Fland reminds me of him in a lot of ways. At 6'2", slide of build. ESPN updated its rankings today. I believe he held his 15th spot there. And he's now the highest rated of those Kentucky signees because Jaden Quaintance moved down a couple of spots, at least in ESPN's ranking, from 14th to 16th. So Fland, look, this is big. I talked about it with Carter Knox when we were talking about that yesterday morning before the commitment. We came on and we talked about the fact that he was coming in for a visit, and it's really sort of a trifecta of things that have happened. You've got Calipari moving on from Kentucky. You've got players that he had in his signing class, 5 stars, and other top 50 guys either decommitting or getting releases from their national letters of intent. And the next thing is what? The next thing is either you go off site to visit them in combination with getting them on campus for a visit. In this case, I don't know if Calipari's been in his ventures lately has been out to personally see Boogie Fland, but apparently Boogie Fland is coming to see John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville. The plan is he'll arrive sometime Wednesday night. And in my opinion, this is a guy that's going to come off the board too. This is a coach that won a big recruiting war. Anytime it's a 5-star, a lot of the big name schools are out there. Just a slew of schools that wanted Boogie Fland. Kentucky got his signature. John Calipari got his signature. Now I think Arkansas is in strong play to land this. I've been hearing for the last few days, and you just always wonder because of the slow drip, and we thought maybe names would come out the first weekend after Calipari was hired. He did say be patient, but we thought maybe 5 to 8 players were in play immediately. That was a little bit slow. We saw Big Z come off, 5 days after the announcement ceremony. That was on a Monday. It took another week before we heard name number 2. Coming into this week, I've told as many as 5, to expect as many as 5. Now, Boogie Fland, obviously in concert with Carter Knox, you would have 2 of the 3 McDonald's All-Americans who were in Kentucky's recruiting wheelhouse and on board there, now joining Cal at Arkansas. If that happens, I believe it will. I believe you keep an eye now on Boogie Fland commitment, similar to what we saw with Carter Knox. This is, to me, really, really big, not only because he's a 5-star, because he's a top 15 guy, but I've really paid attention to his game. And he's a guy, to me, again, going to need to get stronger. But some guys that are sleight of build, their craft is so good that they create space. And so it gets tougher and tougher once you make the next step to the high major level. So there'll be some learning curves there, and there'll be some obvious understanding that, yeah, he needs to get stronger because he's not going to completely have his way like he does at this level right now. But he's a guy that has very little fear when he drives in. He's a guy that when he starts to lose his balance, you lose hope, and then all of a sudden he's got a trick shot and the ball's off the glass and going in. Again, I bring up Kyrie Irving. It's the same kind of stuff he employs where you're like, you see 3 or 4 wild plays in a game. That's what Boogie Fland does. To me, his skill level, again, at his age, for all the things he can do, and he's a willing facilitator. I've talked a little bit about on some of these segments. I really like his IQ defensively. He's not necessarily a guy I've seen stand in front of his man and shut guys out and lock them down that way, but he's a good help defender. He's sneaky smart in how he digs down against the blind side on players that are trying to post or turn, and he's reaching in help situations, and he creates deflections. And he anticipates situations really well defensively. So he's not only is he helping maybe make a play, but he's often running and ready to get things going in transition. And we've seen him, excel in transition, whether it's setting somebody up with a lob pass, making a well-timed bounce pass, or just going and making a play himself. He's a guy that has craft all the way out to the 3-point line. He has a setup game for threes, nice step-back game. He uses that quickness to move forward, hesitate, and then either shift into another gear to get to the cup. And then your defenders picking and are guessing now because you're picking and choosing because he's got a nice step-back game. He can hit the brakes, pull it back, and get behind that 3-point line and knock those down confidently. He's got a nice pull-up game, too. Again, he understands how to create enough space to get to spots and avoid some of that contact, but he is a fearless slasher and will take on some contact as well. He's a guy, that I could see as a future all SEC kind of guy, if not as a freshman. I'm not predicting he would be as a freshman, but I'm saying that's actually on the table for a guy like him. You just never know the learning curve moving up to the next level. But this is a prize recruiting win if it goes down that way, which I believe it will. I don't think John Calipari's bringing guys to campus to tell him no. Let's just say it that way. We're almost 10 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit the subscribe button if you like it. Hit that too, if not, but go ahead and subscribe. We got a lot of really good content. I'm going to go over some other developments. Something I touched on and talked about yesterday, because I'm going to get back to Boogie Fland. I'm 10 minutes in. I want to hit a couple other things. Something I talked about yesterday and had tweeted out prior to that, Jordan Burks, the 6'8", long wingspan, wing athletic guy, came from the same overtime elite program that Carter Knox did. I had reported that Calipari, a source had told me Calipari had dinner with he and his family over the weekend. He didn't have enough information to pinpoint whether that took place in Fayetteville or elsewhere. I knew that Calipari had been in Fayetteville most of the weekend. I have since had my source follow up and did confirm that dinner actually did take place in Fayetteville. And so that means Jordan Burks and his family were in Fayetteville over the weekend. He's a name we could hear come off the board. Again, if they're in town, these things to me are just a matter of time. Jordan Burks out of Kentucky's portal would have, in my opinion, will end up being a Razorback. I did say that yesterday that I thought it would probably headed that way, but just a little bit more information about where that dinner was. And so Jordan Burks would be, again, player number 2 out of UK's portal. And now conceivably Boogie Fland, if he actually comes on the visit, which I expect he will. I don't think these things get announced again in John Calipari's world for it to blow up. I think it's been very well planned. Oh, someone's compliment me on my attention to detail. Well, thank you. But either way, you potentially now pretty soon are going to hear a second name out of Kentucky's portal and a second McDonald's All-American 5-star top 25 guy. Again, Fland top 15 according to ESPN. Certainly a 5-star. I've enjoyed every minute in these All-Star games. Remember, you have to understand that those performances don't always translate. A bad performance. Sometimes guys that have bad performances in these games go on to be some of the best players in college basketball and future greats in the pro game. You see guys blow up in some of these games and kind of fizzle later on. You just never know. But I've seen enough of Boogie Fland. I've seen the skill set. I see what he brings to the table. There's a lot to like there. I think with Calipari guys, when he brings them out of high school, I think that's the difference between portal guys and those is not only physical maturity, understanding of what it takes to play at the college level, but a lot of times you see it really pronounced defensively. And so for any young players, always keep that in mind. How much growth do they need? I mean, I had an NBA scout. I talked about this yesterday. Carter Knox said this guy's a fantastic offensive player. Well, we all know that. I mean, over 23 points per game at overtime elite, nearly 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Good shooting numbers, not great. 34% from 3. That'll play. But the word from this scout was he's a guy that's got a long way to go defensively. Now he's got length. He's strong. He's a good, like a weak side rim protector, coming over to help and block shots. He'll get deflections. But there's so much that goes into being a good defender, not just making plays because of your raw athleticism and some of your instincts. You have to be into communication. Your instincts are one thing, but being disciplined, taking the coaching at that level, all those things come into it. So guys like Carter Knox and Boogie Fland, as talented as they are offensively, and we see some of the stuff they bring to the table defensively in some of these scenarios, there's a long way to go to understanding how good will they really be as freshmen defensively. I know Kentucky struggled last year on the defensive end. The offense was grade A. Defense, not so much. You do an amazing job, Kevin. Thank you. Yes, Kevin is all. Well, thanks, guys. Love Kevin's work. I thought I might see more comments, not about me, but about some of the stuff we're talking about. So we're getting into it, but thank you. I appreciate that. I don't mean to sound like I don't. Really, the thing here for me now is I'm looking at these two guys that could come off the board. We'll see if a name like Jordan Burks comes out today. So far, both commitments have been 5 o'clock, a little after 5 o'clock. The one yesterday was after 6 o'clock, so it's been evening. Do we see a day pop? I always call the portal news portal pops. I don't know. I don't know if anybody ever watched the movie The Other Guys, but there was a desk pop scene in that movie. It's one of my favorite movies, kind of under the radar for some people. One of my favorite comedies, but I got that idea from doing a desk pop where the guy's in the police precinct and he gets pranked into firing off his gun at his desk, and they go, yeah, it's a desk pop. So portal pop. We saw a lot of those under Eric Musselman. I don't think we'll see as many under Calipari. I think we're going to see more of a blend of getting some of these high school guys. Getting guys out of Kentucky's portal, yeah, that makes sense. We're going to talk about another name that just went in there. That was my next order of business because I kind of wanted to get out the source information, some of the stuff I was hearing. Now national reports coming out confirming stuff and giving more detail. And we're going to get into Johnell Davis a little bit too. I wanted to tell the secret. I guess I gave away my secret on the portal pop. I always put that in my tweets. Anytime Arkansas gets a portal commitment, I think Jordan Burks could be soon. We'll see. I don't even know if he's still in Fayetteville, or how that's going to exactly land. It could be today again. Could we see a commitment as soon as tomorrow, like we did with Carter Knox yesterday? Arrives late in the day for a visit. The news comes out the same day, that early evening, so just a couple or 3 hours later. The news is maybe Wednesday night for an arrival for Boogie Fland. So, would they go late with a commitment announcement? Would it be the next day? Is there going to be a commitment announcement? Again, I don't think Calipari's bringing guys to Fayetteville to send them away without a commitment announcement. That just doesn't add up to me. And I really think that the momentum has started. I talked about this. Why I came on at 7 a.m. yesterday. I knew this was going to be a busy week, and I just felt like that flood of Sunday night news starting to come out. You're starting to see these high school all-star events wrap up. And you're also getting toward the end of semesters, and you're getting toward the end of NIL contracts and deals. And so we're going to see more activity actually in the portal. One of the names from Kentucky we thought was just going to go pro, because he announced he was going to go pro, sign an agent and all that, but he's in the portal now. Apparently he's left open the door to return to college, but in the portal, and I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm going to do the best I can. Yagana Onyenso, Onyenso. I'm probably butchering that. I remember the player, another 7-footer with length and athleticism, was a sophomore, played 2 years for Calipari at Kentucky, but just going over his numbers, just under 4, played between 18 and 19 minutes per game, 3.6 points per game, 4.8 rebounds. But what you're really looking at with this player is his shot blocking. Again, just under 19 minutes per game, 18.6, 2.8 rebounds per game. Or excuse me, block shots per game. 2.8 blocks per game in only 18.6 minutes. I mean, that's easy math. That tells you if the guy's playing 40 minutes, he's over 6 blocks per game or right around 6 blocks per game. Matter of fact, he had 5 games. I went and checked it out. 5 games with 4 more blocks this season. And that included a couple of games, one where he had 10 blocks, another one where he had 8. So here's a guy that comes in and is giving you defense. He's giving you rim protection. And now you're talking about if he's in play. I don't know that he is. I'm going to add him when I go back and revamp my recruiting tracker that I update every day on HogvilleNET, and I tweet out links to it. And I've got all the names, guys in Kentucky's portal, all that stuff. I'm going to add him in there. You have to. So you wonder where this is moving, if it's moving toward an Arkansas situation at all. But with Big Z at 7'2", who is a good shot blocker, a guy that I think the more minutes you give him, I mean, a 15-game guy last year because he only played just less than half the season. Those last 15 games that he played that half of the season, the back end was a very good shot blocker for minutes played. Just over between 11 and 12 minutes and 1.3 blocks per game. So here's an even better shot blocker, another 7-footer. And so in tandem, those guys, you saw some of that last year, where you leave one guy in, take one guy and replace him with the other, and you've still got a rim protector. To me, Big Z, Zvonimir Ivicic, brings a little more to the table because he can stretch the floor a little bit as a shooter. I think he's a little bit better offensively around the basket. He just needs minutes and opportunities. He's a guy that I could see being, an all SEC defensive team, selection. I don't know about defensive player of the year. You got to get a lot of minutes probably to do that, but he could be one of those all SEC defensive team kind of guys if he has that kind of role in terms of giving that opportunity to make real production with a much bigger role than 12 minutes per game than he got at Kentucky. I can envision, if you got him up to around 20 to 25 minutes per game, he might bring that kind of value. This is the kind of guy that does something similar. And he was playing just under 20 minutes per game, or 18.6. So let's see if there's any movement on him. If you look at his percentages, 55% shooting from the field. He's going to be mostly a guy that is doing his work around the rim and around the basket, whereas Big Z can stretch the floor a little bit, face up a little bit. Brings a lot of different elements, Z does. This guy's not as versatile offensively, but defensively, a little bit ahead of him right now, especially when you look at those block shots. It tells you the story. Not a big rebounder, though. Z's rebounding numbers, 3.3 in 12 minutes. This guy, 4.8, so just a board and a half more in 7 more minutes. So both of them, not the biggest in terms of volume rebounding, but it's respectable. And so you're really looking at the rim protection a lot there. And then some of those other things, again, the guys that can finish in transition, clean up the offensive glass with putback dunks and tip ins, things like that. And then again, altering shots when they're not blocking them. That's the thing we don't talk enough about. not just the raw block shot numbers. Some of these are really good. But how many shots do they alter? How many times do guards that are driving second guess the angles they're taking, take a tougher shot, back it out? I mean, that's why you load up like Calipari does. It's not just that he goes after 5-star athletic guys. There's a lot of length. You don't see a lot of frail bodies in there. You just don't see a lot of that with him. Guys with meat on the bones, length, size, athleticism. Yeah, there's some of these guys their measurables are so good it moves them up. But this was a top 40 recruit coming out of high school 3 years ago. This latest entry into the portal, and it's another 7-footer. Let's see if Arkansas and Calipari are in play here. This is a name that I did not expect. I thought the portal part of it was done at Kentucky. This is a little different now. That's another name in there. And again, I'm going to add him to my recruiting tracker a little later when we wrap up here. All right, we're 21 minutes in. The big news is Boogie Fland, McDonald's All-American 5-star, class of 2024, going to be planning a visit to Arkansas, reportedly arriving Wednesday night, tomorrow night. And again, this is one of those situations where I don't think there's a lot of confusion as to about what happens next. I really expect a commitment there. And this was a guy, when we were talking early 7 a.m. yesterday, I had not gotten any news about this likely to visit Arkansas as a follow-up with an NBA scout, just talking about all the players there and some of the ones that were now uncommitted. What were they going to do? Because decisions have to be made. It was prior to that. And so it had been really quiet in terms of, other than Fland acknowledging in an interview Sunday night with Adam Zagoria, the reporter, that, yeah, Calipari's trying to get him to visit, but he wasn't sure yet what he was going to do. That's a smart way to kind of deflect and let whoever your representation is, whoever your handlers are, get your team rallied. You just finished that game and kind of keep things close to the vest until you're ready for it to come out. But you can't read into what those comments are because you don't know specifically how that may play out. But as information continued to trickle out, it seemed clear to me that he was in play. There's some other names here when we go through the portal. I mentioned Jordan Burks. We now have talked about Ugana Onyenso. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The 7-foot sophomore who's now in the portal. But he's played in 40 games in 2 years. This past season, 14 starts and 24 games played. Kentucky had some injury issues and some other things going on in the front line early in the year. Burks was a guy that jumped in and was serviceable there. At 6'8", they list him as a wing, but he's really a 3-4 combo in my view. But with all the size and height that Calipari recruits, I remember Trey Lyles, who's an excellent NBA player right now on that team that went undefeated back in 14, 15. He was a 6'10" starter at times on the wing because you had Willie Cauley-Stein and Karl Anthony Towns in that starting lineup. And they changed that up sometimes, and Lyles, I think, at times played off the bench. But there were times he was the third 6'10" or bigger guy on the court with those other two, and he was versatile. So you always wonder what's going through Calipari's mind when he's loading up some of these guys that are 6'8", 6'9". In past years, those would be small ball fours and sometimes the tallest guy on the court for the Razorbacks. Now it could be the third tallest guy, and there's some combination of versatility with guys on the court together. So you don't know how it's going to play out. I think it's very fascinating. The more we see, when we see another 7-footer going into Kentucky's portal, and we know, we've talked about Boogie Fland, we've talked about Carter Knox. That Fland looks to be the next McDonald's All-American off the board. But there's another one, Jaden Quaintance, who apparently is going to visit Memphis this weekend. He's talked about, it's been reported, outside of his Louisville visit last week, then the Jordan Brand Classic over the weekend in Brooklyn, reportedly an upcoming visit to Memphis. You then wonder, will Arkansas be next? Because he's talked about it's down to those three, Louisville, Arkansas, and Memphis. Is there a way to squeeze in an Arkansas visit before then and never make it to Memphis? Is there something quiet on that right now? That would be that's an interesting dynamic. It's going to be a big weekend in Memphis as it is. You've got Nike EYBL session going on down there. The top players in the country that, Nike has most of them. There's really good players on Adidas and Under Armour, but that's going down this weekend in Memphis. So a lot of these 2025 guys over the last several days, by the way, top 10 rated guys that Arkansas, Kenny Payne, and John Calipari have extended offers to. I've tweeted about some of these guys, including yesterday, the number one player in the country, AJ. Um, Sick. Well, I've lost it on his last name. Um, Debonsa, 6'9" forward, kind of a versatile 6'9" guy, the number one player in the country, not only in most of the services, but the composite number one 5-star, but one of three that I've seen in the past week that are rated in the top 10 5-star guys that have got offers. So some of these guys will be participating. You've got, again, Jaden Quaintance. What's going to happen with him? That's the other McDonald's All-American that, had signed with Kentucky and got out of his letter of intent. And if Arkansas is truly in the final three, maybe Arkansas gets the last visit. Again, if they sneak him in before the Memphis visit, maybe he doesn't take the Memphis visit and commits. Those are things I'm trying to get specifics on, is what's next for Arkansas with Jaden Quaintance. So that's the high school part of it, because that starts to address once again with Quaintance the front line activity. We've talked about the guys in the portal with Z off the board from Kentucky to Arkansas. The new name in today, another 7-footer going into Kentucky's portal. How is Arkansas potentially in play there? But Jaden Quaintance at 6'9", a man-child 16-year-old that's going to need to play 2 years at the college level or do something for 2 years before he's eligible for the 2026 NBA draft. So, the NCAA rulings come out where they're going to basically grant, transfers to anybody at any time with no waivers needed. And the only requirement is that the academic requirements are met, that players are in line there and in good standing academically to do it. So that it changes the game even more. So it's conceivable Quaintance could do multiple things in the next 2 years, but the colleges are banking on, the ones that are in the running for him are banking on the idea that he's going to come play for them for 2 years. That would be Calipari's goal. And Calipari got this guy to sign on the dotted line and be part of that Kentucky class way back in November. So you would think there have been discussions about how that's going to play out over the next 2 years, knowing that he can't go into that draft for 2 years. And so, Arkansas has the best plan, probably. NIL is going to speak volumes for all of these situations. I had a source, I mentioned some of these NBA sources. On the college level, they have a lot of information. There's a lot of shared information. And one of my NBA sources told me that the initial offer to Carter Knox, there was a going back to the drawing board situation there. I don't know how much it was upped, but it was upped. That's obvious. I was given a figure initially on what the initial offer is. I've been asked not to share that, so I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to hold on to that. But that source information was reinforced again today in a conversation today. And then I was not given the specific amount that it was raised to. And I'm, maybe we'll get to a point where I can talk about the original offer, what it was raised to, but obviously that worked out. We'll see where Boogie Fland, if that's already been ironed out. I don't think players are making trips and taking visits unless a lot of this stuff is stapled down and figured out. And so that's likely something that's been done already and ironed out. Jaden Quaintance is another one. Again, you're getting a 2-year value for a McDonald's All-American, a top 15 rated 5-star. Composite rankings have had him in the top 10 at number 8 for a while now. We'll see with some of these updates on some of these rankings where it lands for him. But a powerful man-child kind of athleticism, strong. At 16 years old, he looks like a grown man. 6'9", perfect build to me for the position. He's a 4-5. He can alternate. And he's got some shooting touch. He's got some soft skills facing the basket. Love him in transition. I like he will battle inside, not intimidated. And he's younger than some of these guys, but he's built just right. Jaden Quaintance, Billy Richmond recently decommitted, national top 25 in the composite, a 5-star in the composite. ESPN's had him in the top 40. When I looked at the update today, I skipped over his part because I was rushing to get on here. And I'm not sure where ESPN has him now, but he was number 39. Quaintance is out officially. Okay, I did not see that. Okay, so if that came out since I've been on here, I have not seen that. Spent some time talking about him. That's interesting. And so how does this affect this other move with this big man now going in the portal at Kentucky? How did that have something to do with that? What else might be in play? Boogie Fland is obviously in play if he's making a visit. It appears as though Quaintance is now out. according to some of the comments that are coming on here. I had not seen that, and I've been checking on some of his stuff earlier today, and still had not seen that. So if I missed it, my apologies for even bringing it up. But this is one of those things. We know recruiting's fluid. We know things happen in real time sometimes when we're talking about it. Maybe that was something that's been out there for a minute and I hadn't seen it. Yeah, the roster's starting to pick up steam. Eric Bossy, it just came out. When you say just came out, how recent was that? Just like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I've been on here for 30 minutes. Was it before that? So he was a guy that when you're taking multiple visits, you're now starting to wonder. 2 minutes ago. Okay, so that clarifies that. All right, so I wasn't losing my mind because I was checking up on all this stuff throughout the morning and the day. Yeah, we're going to get into some of the portal prospects that are not related to Kentucky, that are not related to Arkansas. Someone says it's been out 25 minutes. Okay, but I've been on for 31. So when we look at some of this stuff now, when we look at the main portal, Johnell Davis is someone I talked about yesterday morning. I talked about it as a rumor because I hadn't seen enough, confirmed reporting, and I've also gotten word on my end that it's a real thing. But others have also been out and reported it publicly. I've now added his name to my recruiting tracker as such. But I will say this: Johnell Davis, the Florida Atlantic transfer, is I think some of the services have him as the number one portal prospect out there. 6'4" guard that just does everything. 18 points per game, over 6 rebounds. I mean, he reminds me his size and the way he attacks both the offensive glass and defensive glass. The way he goes in there like he owns that damn backboard reminds me a little bit of Sidney Moncrief, just because they're similar size in terms of height, but their mentality and the way that they approach getting to that glass. There's some Sidney Moncrief. I know I'm going way back, but he was an elite rebounder at 6'4" in the college game. Numbers were actually better than this guy's, but 6.3 rebounds per game, 2.9 assists, and really 3 assists per game, 1.4 steals. But when you watch him, I mean, he can shoot the three. He can shoot deep threes. I think he made 9 or 10 25-footers this past year, if I'm not mistaken. He knocked some NBA shots down. Somebody else has got news about Battle, so I jumped in here on the wrong time, I guess. I didn't see that. That came on and faded, and I saw Battle, so I don't know. Battle's going to visit K-State tomorrow. Have I heard anything about him possibly coming back? No, I have not. I have not heard anything about him possibly coming back. I think there were reasons why things have been quiet on his front until now, and I suspect they had to do with NIL obligations, and then maybe getting closer to the end of a semester. Derek Hood athleticism for Davis. He is very athletic. Derek Hood was 6'7", 6'8". I think he was legit. He ended up being legit 6'8". New with the do. No, I don't have any new information there. I'm going to run through some of these names on the front line. I started with Johnell Davis in the backcourt, but his shooting splits nearly between 48 and 49% from the field, over 41% from three, over 85% from the free throw line. Stuff I talked about yesterday when I came on, but again, it's important to go over just how efficient, how productive, and how he impacts games. I mean, a Final Four run at Florida Atlantic 2 years ago. Here's a guy that's consistently increased his production and efficiency in a 4-year career. He'd have 1 year to go, and it's apparently down to Arkansas and Kentucky. I've been trying to figure out when's he coming for a visit. I'm trying to get that information. Bria, rule him out of Arkansas. I mean, I've still got him on my tracker. What I'm hearing is he's down to 5 blue bloods. I've seen that reporting. I've seen reporting on other guys too that didn't have Arkansas in there, and then Arkansas was still in play. So I'm not quite ready to let go of that. I'm not telling you that I've got inside track that Arkansas is still in play, but I'm not ready to 100% let go of that. I may be getting, it may break while I'm on here. Several things are coming out once I decided to come on here. So we're going to talk about Caleb Battle visiting Kansas State. here's a guy, when you look at what he did at the end of the season, once given a green light offensively, kind of we saw the player that we envisioned more of when he was brought out of the portal this time a year ago, or actually, yeah, it was this time, early to mid-April when Musselman pulled in those 5 backcourt players out of the portal, including Caleb Battle. So it's been almost basically a year since that went down, and so now, when you're talking about Tang looking in that portal, he's seen a guy that can go get buckets, can go score the ball. A guy that when he's going to draw free throws attempted, we know Musselman loved that. Like, he didn't love it enough to keep him on the court through 2/3 of the start of the season. There were other things defensively and some other stuff going on off the court. But once he greenlighted him, the guy was getting to the line regularly. 10 to 14 free throws attempts seemed like per game there for a while, when he was hitting 42, 30 plus, and some of those 20 plus. I mean, he went on a scoring spree, and a lot of that was getting to the line. Very, elite free throw shooter when you talk about not only volume but efficiency in the high 80s. Going back to Temple even, and then his efficiency got better at the on 3-point shots while he was during that streak. So it doesn't surprise me that Tang's bringing him in. Little bit surprised. I guess I'm not surprised about Jaden Quaintance because of the Louisville visit, because of the scheduled Memphis visit. I guess I'm not really surprised by it. I did think that there would be a chance to get him on campus, but Calipari's not going to bring anybody in that's not serious about signing on. And the dollar, there may have been some shell game with the dollar amounts there in terms of, and I just don't think there's going to be a lot of yo-yo. I don't think Calipari or Arkansas are going to get caught up in some of this stuff that's going on. I'm not saying but a lot of the stuff I heard about Quaintance and some of the demands that might be coming out from his camp, there's potential for that. So I don't want to telegraph or say that's what's happening for sure, but it might be part of it. I think it is. I think this guy wanted to ride with Calipari. His dad said he did. I think it's about NIL probably. Maybe something will come out on that's legit and not a cover story or a spin. But I have a feeling that NIL's in play there. And if it's true, I need to go and look at the reporting. It sounds like if Bossy's putting it out, I respect Eric Bossy. I know Eric Bossy. We bump into each other in the grassroots seasons out on the road across the country and have respect for each other. And I've always thought he does a great job. So if he's saying he's out, you probably can take that to the bank. And yeah, look, I mean, Arkansas now, to me, when you're getting Carter Knox, looks like Boogie Fland, your backcourt with talent. Johnell Davis, who we just talked about, another backcourt piece out of the portal. You'd love to get him. If you could put that trio together, you're talking, I don't know about Johnell Davis in the future in terms of the NBA. He's testing those waters. Some of these NBA guys I talked to are not convinced that he's going to transfer somewhere. One of them thinks maybe he should stay in college. Another one said he'd like to see him come out. So we'll see. But with him, and if you could package him with both Carter and Fland at Arkansas, I mean, Arkansas's already, just those 3 guys, arguably the best backcourt in a strong SEC coming into next year. Arguably the best backcourt just on the strength of those 3 names, if it played out that way. Quaintance bag is something else. Yeah, I don't know if Bossy or anybody's been reporting on the bag since I guess Arkansas being ruled out here. But Arkansas looks like is going to get 2 of the 3 McDonald's All-Americans out of that class. If that's true about Quaintance, and it sounds like it is. And Billy Richmond, a top 50 guy. Somtu Cyril, another big man. Now that we're going to talk big men, I'm going to jump to him because he may be another one where we've got question marks here because he just took that visit to Georgia. He's considering other schools and taking visits, including Arkansas. And he's also considering some pro opportunities. 6'10", 250, played at overtime elite with Carter Knox. Over 9 points per game, over 9 rebounds per game, over 3 blocks per game, playing just over 20 minutes per game. So when you add it up, when you put it out, stretch it out to 40 minutes on the overtime elite circuit with other elite players, that's over 18 in points, over 18 in rebounds, and 6.5 blocks per game, thereabouts. So those are big time numbers. I think at overtime elite, Cyril was shooting what 67, making 2 out of every 3 field goals. Most of that's around the basket, dunks, layups, putbacks, things of that nature. Again, 6'10", 252, just over 39 inches on that max vert. Testing at the combine, overtime elite combine last week, about a week ago. Calipari was there in addition to Chin Coleman, who's not formally been announced, but will be brought over from that Kentucky staff. And then the standing vert, the max vert was over 39 inches, I believe, and the standing vert was over 33. But he just visited Georgia. Could he be in play on that front line? Quaintance is out. Does that impact this? Again, the new portal entry at Kentucky, the 7-footer. Tipton is now reporting that Aidoo's going to visit Arkansas this weekend. That does not surprise me. We're going to transition now back to portal with him and Brandon Garrison. Those are the 2 names that I keep hearing momentum for. Aidoo has Arkansas in his Final Four. Yesterday I lost has been reported that he does by Jeff Goodman. And yesterday I lost one of those teams. It was Alabama. So it was supposedly Arkansas, Alabama, Baylor, where he was to have visited over the weekend. I've never been able to, I haven't gone back to see what was said about that visitor if it happened in North Carolina. So Baylor, North Carolina, Alabama, in addition to Arkansas. So I'm missing some of these comments here. I guess I picked the wrong time to come on if Jonas Aidoo is being reported now to take a visit to Arkansas. Josh is right. Arkansas is set to host one of the top transfers. So is that Aidoo? I mean, has anybody confirmed? I saw Aidoo was the name on here, but then someone else saying one of the top transfers. That could also be Brandon Garrison. I don't know if this young man that's jumped in here now, Ugana Onyenso, is considered one of the top big man transfers. And could it be him? I mean, TJ Power from Duke contacted. Well, okay, I'm going to jump off of here. I've got a lot of work to do. I need to get on. I just see a yes. So I need to get on here. There's a lot of stuff that's jumping off. I guess I should have waited a little bit to come in here and talk about Boogie Fland coming in. It's Aidoo. Okay, someone's saying it is Aidoo coming in. That's big time. 6'11", versatile guy. He can play your 4. He can play the 5. He's solid at both ends. You know, over 11 points per game, over 7 rebounds per game, nearly 2 blocks per game. And look, he's a guy that he's playing less 27, 28 minutes per game, not even 30. Those are really good numbers. 51.5% shooting from the field. I remember that. Low 60s at free throw line. Destroyed Arkansas in that 29-point win. 23 points, 12 rebounds. We remember that game. Okay, so I was talking about Quaintance's bag. Now that I know Aidoo's on board, someone made the comment, maybe that's why Quaintance is out. Look, the bag is part of it. To me, if you're going to be somewhere for 2 years and you're getting the right bag, I might be okay with a guy on the front line like Aidoo and having someone I can play in tandem with. And I know these guys want minutes, but you got 2 years. You got 2 years, 2 seasons. Aidoo's only got 1. And so, I doubt Calipari would bring a guy in like Quaintance and recruit over him for year 2. And I wouldn't even consider Aidoo recruiting over him. I think Quaintance could be on the floor because he can shoot a little bit and face up a little bit with certain guys. So maybe that is part to do with these moves and why Quaintance is out. And maybe there's some reporting about that already now that we know Aidoo's coming in. But I think also some of the NIL stuff I was hearing, I thought mine, and again, I said I was speculating, so I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Almost 45 minutes in. I hope you go and hit subscribe. I really appreciate everybody joining me today on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Apparently, I came on a little too soon. I needed to wait a little longer for some of this news because I want to go back and study it. And I'm not telling you for sure that I won't be jumping back on later tonight. We may have to. We may have another commitment today and maybe talk more about some of this stuff. But I'm going to sign off for now. Once again, thank you for joining me, HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Thank you to my sponsors, Jose's Bar and Grill. In Tawny Town, the big news coming out today. The first piece of big news, Boogie Fland coming to visit. Jonas Aidoo, second team All SEC, big man out of Tennessee, the SEC champ, apparently coming in for a visit this weekend. Two pieces of huge news there with other stuff going on. Davis visiting this weekend allegedly. Now, if you bring Johnell Davis in, I was signing off and now someone's putting that in there. I don't know if you're bringing Johnell Davis in with Jonas Aidoo, how big of a 1-2 splash would that be? How monstrous would that be? I just mentioned Johnell Davis along with a Carter Knox and Boogie Fland. Go ahead and pencil in arguably the best backcourt in the SEC. You land Jonas Aidoo along with Johnell Davis on the same weekend, and now you're shifting your eyes back to the front court, going, okay, Aidoo. Who else could they get? Because they've got Big Z already in the fold there. Who else might be in play? Calipari's not going to stop at two big men. And Jordan Burks, if he's on board, if that's going to happen, he's not he's a work in progress. He's still under development, and he's not a typical big. I mean, he's sort of a 3-4 slender build combo. He's a guy that can help you on your front line, but Calipari likes to stack big bodies. So who all's in play now? Big news if Johnell Davis is going to visit this weekend along with Jonas Aidoo. I got to get to work. Now I really am signing off. The nuggets keep flowing in here. Thank you again for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. And until later, maybe tonight, someone said they got that information from a booster. All right. Until possibly later tonight, maybe early in the morning again tomorrow at 7 a.m. I don't know how fast, but the news is flowing, so we may have to jump right back in here. Until then, see you then.